Well, 4 former senior Gauteng Health Department officials have been granted bail in the Special Commercial Crimes Court sitting in Palm Ridge. They allegedly had a hand in facilitating the unlawful awarding of tenders worth over R1 billion. The matter relates to 2 contracts which were awarded to Baoki Consortium and 3P for the procurement of a health information system in 2007. Senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngobo was in court. Ziyanda, the Hawks, I suppose, in their briefing in Parliament created expectation around big arrests. Today they've been, talk around who's sleepless and who's not. Yes. But I guess we have our answers now.
Yes, we most certainly do. And as you've already mentioned, 4 former senior Gauteng Health Department officials were arrested. So some of their positions include being in the IT and infrastructure department, supply chain management, and as well as other senior positions. One of them was a head of department as well. And really, what has been brought forward in the court is the fact that they helped facilitate the payment of this tender despite actually receiving advice not to do so, that the department didn't actually have money or the trained staff or the infrastructure to carry out this project. Now, reports at the time also indicated that this Baoki consortium actually got 460 million rand, but never actually produced anything. I think the big thing here, if we're talking big names, Kathy, is the fact that at the time, the health MEC was Brian Hlongwa, and a special investigating unit report actually implicated him as having received kickbacks from the CEO of Baoki Consortium to influence who the tenders went to. And so we asked then the NPA why Hlongwa wasn't a part of the charge sheet today, and they're saying that, look, the investigations are still continuing and it's a complex investigation, and so no one is necessarily off the hook. So you'll interpret that whichever way you feel.
The investigation has also been many years in the making, which in some strains, because I remember that Brian Hlongwa story very well from the time from the time when it actually broke out. And what are the Hawks saying about the cases that they may have previously investigated, found wrongdoing, but for whatever reason, those cases just got bungled in the system?
I think that's a very important point to note, is the fact that there are several cases just like this one that just were sort of left hanging. There was no follow-up, despite, like I've mentioned, there was an actual SIU report and there were names that were put there. We asked Sipongwema that as well, to say what took so long, and really saying, look, the investigation is still continuing. I'm not sure why that would be the case. He didn't give details, but the investigations are still continuing, and I guess it's still part of that strategy to work from the bottom upwards.
One of the biggest difficulties for the Hawks and for the prosecuting bodies is going to be the recovery of monies. Here we're looking at about R1 billion, give or take, that effectively was spent. We'll hear clearly where that money went and how much of it actually serviced what it needed to. What does that do for the projects that were meant to benefit from this? So retrospectively, does the Hawks and the SIU tribunal, do they have an alternative mechanism for all of this money that was lost?
At this point in time, it's not clear whether they actually do, because there wasn't much talk about the asset forfeiture unit possibly freezing the assets of these, officials. We know that they handed themselves over, and that, some of the kickbacks that they received included like purchasing furniture worth 86,000 rand, some movable assets that may not even be worth the amount that they were at the time that they were bought. So there's no clear indication of where exactly the monies went. I mean, at the time, it was just reports, and this was an SIU report. So it's unclear. This is the beginning of the arrest, and so we're yet to hear what then will be the recourse, and will we still have that, IT health system, procurement system that was meant to have been put in place? And does the Gauteng Health Department now have the trained staff and the infrastructure to actually carry it out? Because in essence, Kathy, what we've been noticing with these arrests is the thinking behind these projects is logical. It was meant to have happened. It's actually in the implementation and in the looting of funds that get redirected to places that they're not meant to have gone that is actually the problem.
It's quite significant to see ordinary rank and file members of the administration now having to account for monies that went missing or were paid out to certain people, because that sends a strong message, especially given what we've seen come out of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, where administrators are literally not taking any responsibility, not taking any accountability for their role in certain procurement of tenders. What is next for the Hawks? Did they have any hint dropping of what might happen next?
No hints dropping, but I mean, of course, if you put 1 and 2 together, you know, at the mention of Brian Hlongwa was quite significant. But I mean, they will never actually give us the names. We did try to get more information, but of course, we know that even in the Eastern Cape, there was also an arrest of a woman who related to COVID-19 corruption as well. So it is still rank and file, but again, they still maintain that you need to start from the ground up, and then they will eventually get to the big guns. When that will be, I have no clue.
It sounds to me like they're trying to secure potentially as many state witnesses as possible so that they are able to get the big fish, as it were. Ziyanda Ngobo is tracking that particular story. She's our senior politics reporter.